smoked an entire gram of 100x Salvia extract. I was probably 16, maybe 17, just another overly confident high school kid who thought he'd already seen it all. The day itself was ordinary enough. My group of friends and I had the usual aimless vibe of a weekend afternoon. Earlier, they'd made a trip to the city to check out a local head shop, one of those places with glass displays of pipes and bongs and psychedelic posters plastered on the walls. They'd gone searching for something new, something that would blow our minds, but I didn't expect them to come back with the strongest salvia extract the shop had on hand, apparently. 100XX. At the time, I didn't really grasp how potent that was. When they invited me over later that day, they grinned mischievously and said, "Hey, we've got some salvia. You down?" Now, for context, my only prior trip experience was a mild attempt at shrooms that didn't really produce visuals. The most I'd felt on those was a little body high and an extra burst of giggles. So my notion of psychedelics was limited. I assumed it would be a harmless, cartoonish experience that you could shake off in a couple of hours. I certainly didn't realize the unique intensity of salvia, let alone the force of a 100x extract. I recall exactly how I responded. Sure, I've done mushrooms before. Maybe this time I'll see real cartoons. My memory is fuzzy on who said what next, but I do remember them egging me on. "I dare you to smoke the whole thing." That's all it took for me. Young, cocky, with that team bravado that says, "You can handle anything." Without a second thought, I said, "Yeah, okay," and started prepping a big glass bong. If I'd had any real knowledge of salvia's effects, I would have been more cautious, but I was an ignorant show-off. They measured out the 100x salvia extract. I couldn't tell if there was a full gram or slightly less, but it was definitely a lot. The head shop clerk had called it his most intense product. That much I knew. I stuffed it into the bong's bowl, layering it with a bit of leaf. We all joked around, saying how I was going to see cartoon animals. Then I ignited it, taking one massive, continuous rip. The smoke felt oddly smooth going down. Not nearly as harsh as weed can be. It tasted like damp soil, musty and a bit earthy, but not unpleasant. I held it in for maybe 30 seconds, fully committed to the idea that the longer I hold, the stronger the hit. When I finally exhaled, there was barely time to blink before the entire room began to fold in on itself. My vision blurred to the point where I could only see shapes. Then everything drastically shifted. The ceiling, which was maybe 8 feet high, looked like it shot up to 100 feet overhead. The walls stretched out into what seemed like a horizon, as though the living room had morphed into a vast desert. Right after that, a bombardment of random swirling shapes, vibrant neon outlines, rushed at me from all directions. Every object was fractalizing. The coffee table, my friends' faces, the couch. None of it adhered to normal geometry anymore. I tried to speak, but all that came out was some garbled noise. My friends say I yelled, "Oh fuck," but I don't recall. Then the couch beneath me changed. It started melting or liquefying, turning into a shifting semi-solid that pulled at my body like quicksand. I felt panic. The couch is swallowing me. My arms thrashed as though I could physically fight off the furniture. My friends told me later that I'd started smacking at the air, flailing about so wildly I nearly knocked stuff off the nearby table. Possibly one of them tried to hold me down so I wouldn't hurt myself or break things. But in my trip, that hand on my shoulder transformed into a skeletal figure, like a grim reaper. But I sensed a female energy from it, which was bizarre. She was robed in black, leaning over me, pressing me deeper into the couch, as if to say, "Accept your fate, child." That acceptance was terrifying, but the fear gave way to a realization that resisting was fruitless. So in a weird calm, I let myself be consumed. The couch sand devoured me and I slipped through into another realm. It was as though I passed a threshold from my living room into a swirling river in some cosmic or dreamlike environment. The water felt real on my skin, rushing me along at dizzying speeds. I had no control, no anchor. This felt like it lasted hours, though my friends say it was only a minute or two of me lying there, bug-eyed. My mind, however, perceived an extended sequence in which I was flung down this psychedelic river, battered by currents of kaleidoscopic color. Eventually, the terrifying rush slowed, and I sensed a presence. An elder man of sorts. He didn't speak words, but I understood him telepathically. He conveyed that I was there as a consequence of my own foolish action, almost a punishment for my bravado, for taking such a high dose without respect. He seemed neither benevolent nor evil, just stern, as though I'd trespassed somewhere I didn't belong. Then, without warning, I was ejected from that river into a large, featureless room. The robed female figure reappeared. This time, she radiated a warm maternal energy, nothing like the grimness I'd felt before. She beckoned me to follow her up a staircase that spiraled upward. I did so obediently. Reaching the top, we emerged onto a platform with a breathtaking view of an entire planet laid out below. In the sky, I saw billions of colorful soldiers marching across the planet's surface, each soldier tinted in a unique swirl of tie-dye hues. The woman indicated that I, too, must join this endless march, that it was my destiny to become one of them. Part of me was reluctant. Part of me felt it was the only logical step. The moment I agreed, the entire vision shattered like glass. The Salvia dream crumbled, and I felt myself snap back into my living room. The sense of time is strange. According to my friends, I'd been out of it, thrashing or lying still for about 15-20 minutes total. But to me, the experience had contained what felt like lifetimes. My re-entry into reality was disorienting. I was drenched in sweat, trembling, heart racing. My friends looked freaked out. One said, "Dude, are you all right? You were screaming." Another said they were worried I'd never come down. I tried to speak, but could only whisper at first. That was insane. The after effects lingered for hours. I felt weak, hollow, like I was an imposter in my own body. My vision was mostly back to normal, but nothing felt stable. Even the concept of my own identity wavered, as if a piece of me remained in that Salvia dimension. After around 4 to 5 hours, the main sense of dread and unreality faded, but I still felt off, like there was a dissonance between me and the world. I decided to smoke some weed in hopes of grounding myself, which helped a bit. Eventually, I took a nap, maybe 3 hours, and woke up feeling more or less back to baseline physically. Mentally, though, I was overwhelmed by the memory of that bizarre cosmic odyssey. I recall telling my friends that it was the single most reality-shattering experience I'd ever had. Years later, I still consider that day one of the major turning points in my relationship with psychedelics. Salvia isn't LSD or shrooms. It's shorter but can be brutally intense. Looking back, I realize how foolish it was to do such a monstrous dose, especially on my first try, especially given the emotional baggage I was carrying, some heartbreak, some existential dread about the future. Salvia hammered me with a cavalcade of hallucinatory realms that felt more tangible than reality. That couch turning into quicksand remains etched in my memory. The robed figures, the swirling fractal armies, all that seemed more real in that moment than my mundane daily life ever had. If I had to glean a lesson, it would be that psychedelics, especially potent ones like high-extract salvia, demand serious respect. Doing it impulsively, with no mental preparation, is practically a recipe for a harrowing time. In some twisted sense, I'm grateful I survived and gleaned some insight about not messing around with unknown extremes. But at the time, it was pure terror intermixed with cosmic wonder, and I never want to replicate that exact scenario again. If I ever do salvia again, it sure as hell won't be a gram of 100 exa. That was beyond reckless. In the aftermath, I also find it interesting how my story parallels so many others. An underestimation of salvia, a sudden catapult into realms of madness, and an eventual awkward return to normal life. The difference is that while some people report comedic or cartoonish salvia trips, mine was quite menacing in spots, like the Grim Reaper mother figure physically pushing me under, or the weird cosmic punishment vibe I got from that elder man. Even the triumphant cosmic moment at the end had a sense of inevitability, as though I was signing away my free will to join that infinite army. All in all, that day stands out as a cautionary tale. If you're naive or overconfident, psychedelics can rip your consciousness to shreds in ways you're not equipped to handle. I was lucky my friends were there to keep me from completely losing it. I'm also lucky that, physically, nothing dire happened. Mentally, I carried the jitters for days, the sense that maybe reality was a flimsy construct. Over time, that paranoia eased, but the memory remains deeply imprinted. I guess that's how it goes with extremely intense trips. They can be unbelievably vivid, to the point you question which side of the experience is the real one. Anyway, that's the story. Me in high school, brashly smoking an entire gram of 100x salvia, descending into a realm of kaleidoscopic madness, nearly convinced I'd never come back, then finally surfacing drenched in sweat, trembling in confusion. If I could go back, I'd shake that younger version of myself and say, "Stop. For the love of sanity, do you realize what you're about to unleash?" But I can't. All I can do is share the cautionary tale now. And to this day, I'll never forget the feeling of the couch liquefying and that motherly Reaper figure pushing me deeper, deeper, into a place I thought I'd never escape.